like you are somewhere very stunning, very jealous. But what more can you tell us about this move from Wirtz to Liverpool?
Florian Wirtz is still on holiday as well, but he will join Liverpool. It's been a move that's been on the card for a long time. As soon as he made up his mind that he was going to go to Liverpool rather than to Bayern and Man City and Real Madrid, who are all in for him to varying degrees of seriousness, I think it was a question of time and a little bit of haggling, how the deal would be structured, what is the down payment, what are the add-ons. But Leverkusen were pretty steadfast in their demands that it would have to be something around about 150 million euros. Now, how you get there, I think we're going to find out over the next few years. There's probably going to be a slight difference in reporting, and Liverpool sources will say the deal is cheaper, and Leverkusen they will say it's more expensive. That always happens in a deal of this magnitude. Both sides want to look as if they got a great deal here. But the bottom line is that Wirtz is coming, and I think Liverpool fans should be very, very excited.
Well, Florian Wirtz would join a very talented group of players who have made that move from the Bundesliga to the Premier League. So what is it about the EPL, Rafa, that makes it such a good next step for some of these German talents?
It's a combination of things. I mean, the Premier League is exciting to almost any player really in the world because of the quality of the competition, the excitement that brings with it, and of course the historic status of so many clubs. For Wirtz, I think it was an interesting one because perhaps in previous years, people would have said, and indeed I think his family did make that point, you know, you're still so young. Why take the risk? Why go now? Why not play 3 more years, let's say, at Bayern Munich, and then when you're 25, 26, when you're slightly more mature, go to the Premier League then. But I think he felt ready and do what Kevin De Bruyne has done, what Kai Havertz has done, what Erling Haaland has done, and not wait until later on, but actually have your peak years or your pre-peak years in the Premier League as well. And I think once Liverpool made that pitch to him in terms of being the number 10 and being really the focal point of their new shaped attack, it was a no-brainer for him. It's the combination Liverpool. The money is good, of course. It's the Premier League. And it's a hugely exciting step up for him with a coach that really wants him to play in that central role.
Rafa, that's a great point you bring up because historically we've seen the best German talent always go to Bayern Munich before they make a move elsewhere. How has that gone down in Germany as a whole, and especially because of he's such an important part to the German national team?
The take is that Bayern have lost out here. It's a defeat. It's a personal defeat for Uli Hoeneß, the honorary president, who's been very vocal about the club's attempts to bring him in, and they failed. And, you know, once the chase becomes so public for Bayern and people expect them to get their man, so it feels like a letdown for the club and for German football on the whole. But, of course, the regret of seeing him leave the Bundesliga, not seeing him on a daily basis for Leverkusen anymore, is tempered by the fact that we're going to see him play for Liverpool. And I think that's going to be a huge sense of pride and excitement in Germany to see a player in their prime, a German player in their prime, play for such a big club. I think you have to go, maybe go back to the early Mesut Özil years to get the kind of, you know, excitement that exists, I think, in Germany at the moment for him and his talent. And Liverpool are going to be even more popular in Germany. I think everyone's going to tune in every single week to see how he progresses for them. And we're not going to lose sight of him just yet.
Rafa, do you think Florian Wirtz himself realises that he probably is going to be the greatest and biggest signing in Liverpool's history? As much as a big club they are, this is the furthest they've ever pushed out the boat for any player. Does he realise that?
Yeah, I think he's well aware of that. You know, Liverpool, of course, have spent big money before on Virgil van Dijk, on Alisson, on Darwin Núñez as well, but they haven't gone quite as far before, and it feels like a momentous change for them. And of course, that will increase the pressure on him. He won't be allowed just to be good. He has to do something very special, 150 million euros worth of talent every single week or every twice a week, and that's going to be hard for him. But at the same time, he is such a strong character, and it would have been easier, as I said before, would have been easier to say, you know what, I don't need all that weight on my shoulders just yet. I go to Bayern, I play with Jamal Musiala, we're going to have fun, we're going to win the league, we're going to make a dent on the Champions League, and then I move on. But no, he feels he's ready. He's ready for Liverpool now, ready for the Premier League, ready for that pressure. and the price tag, I don't think will phase him that much.
I can't believe you just gave Bayern the league again next year, Rafa. Thanks. Great sell for the Bundesliga.
Okay, Rafa, well, like I said, Florian Wirtz looks set to join a group of very talented alum who have had stops in the Bundesliga, whether they are German or not. So right now we're going to play a little bit of a game here, and we're going to go grade some of the players that have had stops in Germany before making moves to the Premier League on a scale of 1 to 10. And we start with a guy that, I don't know, have you guys heard of Erling Haaland? Kind of a big deal. So how, on a scale of 1 to 10, would you grade Erling Haaland?
10 in the top,
10,
right?
10's the
1
best.
to 10?
Okay.
20.
Okay. He's got, just his stats.
I don't
what
know
he's won, incredible.
If this is an example of Germany facilitating through their academies or their infrastructure a player that has then excelled in the Premier League, or rather a case of freakish talent in football, because he was scoring at this volume in the Netherlands, then in Austria, then in Germany, and then in the Premier League. It felt like Dortmund was the natural next step in the progression of his career from Red Bull Salzburg. And obviously Dortmund had a hand in him being better, but he's just so good.
So it's a 10, Nico. Thank you.
No, well, he spent 2 seasons at Dortmund. Rafa, how much credit are you going to give Haaland's stop in the Bundesliga here?
I don't think we can claim that we've built or developed the talent of Erling Haaland. Dortmund did what they did so well with Jude Bellingham, for example, which is to take somebody who was obviously going to be a superstar and give him that platform to play in the Champions League, to play in front of 80,000 people at a very young age. And of course, these type of players, they grow. They take that as an opportunity, as a stepping stone, and they blossom into something bigger that then gets too big for Dortmund to hold on to. So not a case of developing, not a case of sort of German academies being really involved in either case. Nico's completely right. But Germany, I think, was a great moment for their progression and a great sort of stop along the way of that great ride that they're on.
Okay, well, another player that has come through Borussia Dortmund is Jadon Sancho, who played this last season on loan at Chelsea. So looking at Jadon Sancho on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you grade him as a player?
2 or 3?
Yeah, I'm going to go 2, right? His time since coming from England, the best time we've seen him since that move to Manchester United was away from England with Borussia Dortmund last year in the Champions League. A big catalyst for them to go to the final. And he's a player that leaves you wanting more. I would put him in the camp of a player that's been a beneficiary of being in the Bundesliga. You think back to the season where they won the DFB Pokal. You think of his relationship with Erling Haaland. It was Batman and Robin. And during that time, I couldn't think of any. Maybe Lionel Messi was the only other player that just, in the final third, made every defender quaking in their boots in terms of creativity. He was that good with Dortmund.
Okay. Has everyone given their number, by the way? Nico said 2 or 3.
2 or 3.
Rafa, what would you give Jadon Sancho?
I think 2 and 3 is a little bit low. I think he's a 4, maybe even a 5. But there's no doubt that we haven't seen him fulfill the amazing potential that he came with. And I'm not sure it's down to the Premier League as such, or maybe more of his mindset. He seems to have lost his confidence, seems to have lost his kind of explosiveness that he used to have. But certainly a player that promised so much more and hasn't really delivered on that.
Okay, moving it on now to Timo Werner, who started his career at Stuttgart, also then went on to play at RB Leipzig, had stops after that at Chelsea, back to RB Leipzig, and then played on loan at Tottenham Hotspur this last season. Scale of 1 to 10, what do we give
Okay,
Werner?
fair. I think
before I say this, for me, his confidence hit a brick wall. That was it, because he was having great chances, great opportunities, and this was a player playing with zero confidence.
So what's your number?
It's hard because there is something there, but then at the end of the day, you're going to be judged on doing your job, and he didn't do his job. And for me, it was all confidence. It's nothing else. If I have to give him a number, it's going to be harsh. I'd have to give him a 2.
Okay, two or three. If Jadon Sancho was 2 or 3, sure, I'll bump him a little bit up to actually say this is a 2. I was so excited. I loved Timo Werner in the very first iteration of him at RB Leipzig with Yusuf Poulsen. It was such a great partnership. Turbo Timo, he was unstoppable. Yep. He was so freaking good. And then he arrived in the Prem and his confidence hit a brick wall, and he's actually come back and not been the same. Really,
because his confidence again, when you look at the opportunities and the chances he's getting, he's missing one-on-ones, basic opportunities, and when he even got in these positions, he was trying to pass it because he just didn't believe in himself. So for me, it was all confidence, and that was it for me.
I'm going to bring the hammer down. I'm going to go 1. in terms of how it's. What you said about him at Leipzig. This guy was running circles around Bayern Munich's back line with Leipzig in the Champions League.
He had Nas.
But this is why we say confidence is a hell of a drug, and at that time he had the confidence.
And I'm tempted to go 2 because you think of his biggest contribution for an English side was in the Champions League final. He was involved in the goal that won Chelsea the Champions League. So I'll be generous and go 2 at most.
Okay, Rafa, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, for that reason, him being involved in the Champions League, I think we have to give him at least a 2, maybe a 3. It is such a shame. I know Timo a little bit. He could have been such an amazing player, but unfortunately, as you said on the panel, he's lost his confidence. He doesn't look like a player who enjoys playing football anymore. It started at Chelsea under Tuchel, and it only got worse now at Spurs last season, and I really fear for him. Leipzig don't want him back. They're trying to ship him out, and yeah, it's the player that only showed us a fraction, I think, of what he could have done. Perhaps he should have stayed a little bit longer at Leipzig to begin with.
All right, we wrap up with Kevin De Bruyne, another player who went on to play at Manchester City, have an amazing career with the Citizens, scale of 1 to 10.
Is this worth a discussion?
And this is a player who was, I mean, for me, it's you can't grade this. It is superlative, right? Like, it's more, if you said Erling Haaland from 1 to 10 was a 20, I don't know what Kevin De Bruyne is. This is a guy who was in the Prem, then has to kind of go refine himself at Wolfsburg. And that Wolfsburg team, that was a really class Wolfsburg team with Bas Dost, with Nicolas Bentner, with Rafinha, Luis Gustavo. It was they lost to Real Madrid in dramatic circumstances in the Champions League. They had a little deep run. And then that's when Manchester City went, this Kevin De Bruyne kid, maybe we should bring him back to the Prem and see what we can do. And they turned him into one of the best midfielders of all time.
But like you said, I mean, Rafa, do you give that stop in the Bundesliga, and before that, he was on loan at Werder Bremen. So do you give those stops a lot of credit in the development of KDB?
Yeah, they were absolutely instrumental in making him the player that he could become, because at Chelsea under Mourinho, he really was a player that was on the margins at best. And then Werder Bremen, everyone saw the talent. Then Wolfsburg, he took it further, became a leader at such a young age, really driving their game, scoring goals. And then at that point, of course, City came in and he's become an all-time great. I mean, KDB, that is my answer every time somebody says, oh, it's another Bundesliga player in the Premier League. Surely they're going to flop. I say, yeah, just like KDB. Just like KDB. So he's the cheat code in any argument about Bundesliga players. He's the ultimate answer to negate that theory.
So a little nugget about the Bundesliga and the Premier League. The last time a Bundesliga reigning player of the year or player of the year the season before went to the Premier League was Kevin De Bruyne. And that worked out quite well for the club that got him. So maybe lightning strikes twice for Liverpool.
Hey, maybe. Hey, Rafa, great stuff. You'll be joining us tomorrow ahead of the Club World Cup. So we'll see you again real soon.